Welcome to my channel, C.S. Lewis Spirit. In tonight's story, the church bells rang at midnight, but no one was there. We enter a place where time stands still, where faith and fear blur into one chilling mystery. It began on a cold autumn night in the quiet town of Blackridge, a place so small that everyone knew when someone sneezed 3 streets away. For centuries, the old St. Bartholomew's Church had been the heart of the town, its towering spire reaching above the fog, its bells echoing through the valley every Sunday morning. But lately, the bells had fallen silent. The church was closed, abandoned for years after a lightning strike cracked its ancient tower. No one had stepped inside since. And yet, one night, exactly at midnight, the bells began to ring. At first, people thought it was a dream. The sound drifted softly across the hills, rising and falling like a breath. Then the second toll came, louder, heavier, vibrating through the windows of sleeping homes. By the third strike, lights flickered on across the town. Curtains moved. Doors creaked open. People stepped out into the cold night, their breath visible in the mist. But when they looked toward the church, the windows were dark. The tower stood still. No one was there. The next morning, rumors spread like wildfire. Some said it was a sign, a warning from heaven. Others whispered it was something darker. The priest who once served at the church, Father Elijah, had vanished years ago under mysterious circumstances. Some claimed his shadow still walked the aisles of the ruined sanctuary. Lena, a young journalist from the nearby city, arrived in Blackridge 2 days later. She had come to write about the strange event, a perfect story for her column on Unexplained mysteries. But as she listened to the locals, she noticed something odd. Every person described the sound of the bells differently. Some said they were bright and pure, others that they were deep and mournful, almost human. One old woman claimed she heard a voice whisper her name between the chimes. Lena didn't believe in ghosts or miracles, but she believed in patterns, and something about this town didn't feel random. She began digging into church records, old newspaper archives, anything that could explain the midnight bells. That's when she found a small note scribbled in the margin of a century-old church log. The bell tolls for those who cannot rest. From that night onward, Lena began hearing faint echoes even when the clock struck noon. It was as if the sound followed her, lingering in the corners of her hotel room, behind the walls, in her dreams. Each night, it grew louder, until she decided to go inside the church herself. What she found waiting there changed everything. The air grew colder, the silence thicker than darkness itself. Her flashlight flickered as she stepped through the doorway. Dust danced like spirits in the beam of her light. Then the bells began to ring again. But this time, they weren't coming from the tower. They were ringing from beneath the floor. And as Lena leaned closer to listen, something whispered her name, the same way it had whispered to everyone before her. Who or what was calling from under the church? Lena froze where she stood, her heartbeat echoing louder than the bells themselves. The sound was deep now, vibrating through the wooden floorboards as if something was alive beneath her feet. She shone her flashlight toward the cracks in the floor, but all she saw was dust and shadows moving where nothing should move. For a moment, the air felt heavy, almost like the church was breathing. Then, as suddenly as it began, the bells stopped. The silence that followed was worse. It pressed on her chest, making her feel like she was being watched. She whispered softly, "Hello? Is someone down there?" Her voice trembled, swallowed instantly by the darkness. No answer came, only the faint creak of the pews shifting, like they were settling after a long sleep. Lena slowly backed away, but her curiosity wouldn't let her leave. She needed to know why the bells rang and what connection they had to the missing priest. Outside, the town was changing too. People who once denied the supernatural now avoided the church entirely. Children spoke of hearing whispers near the graveyard. An old man at the inn claimed he saw lights moving inside the church tower at midnight, though no one dared to check. The fear was growing, and so was the divide between those who thought it was divine and those who believed it was cursed. Lena decided to talk to Father Matthews, a retired priest who had served in Blackridge decades ago. When she mentioned the midnight bells, his face turned pale. "Some doors," he said quietly, "are meant to stay closed." The church wasn't abandoned. It was sealed. That night, Lena returned to her hotel room. The moment she turned off the lamp, the faint toll of a bell echoed once again, from right outside her window. The answer would uncover the town's oldest secret, one buried in both stone and sin. Stay with me, because this is where the real story begins. Lena's hands shook as she pulled the curtain aside. The street below was empty, only a flickering lamppost and the outline of the old church tower in the distance. Yet the bell sound was clear, slow, deliberate, each toll echoing through her chest like a heartbeat she couldn't escape. She stepped back, whispering to herself that it had to be the wind, maybe an old mechanism in the tower still turning on its own. But deep down, she knew it wasn't mechanical. It was calling her. The next day, she went to the town archives, determined to find anything about the church's ceiling. What she discovered made her blood run cold. Decades ago, after a storm destroyed part of the tower, several workers went missing during the repair. Their names were never recorded again, and the priest, Father Elijah, wrote only one final note before he disappeared. "The bells keep them from rising." Lena read those words again and again. What did he mean, rising from where? That night, as thunder rolled over Blackridge, Lena walked back to the church. The doors were chained, but the lock was already broken. Inside, the air smelled of earth and rain. Her flashlight caught faint scratches along the floorboards, symbols carved deep into the wood, forming a circle around the altar. The same phrase from the log was etched beside it. The moment she stepped inside that circle, the air changed. A low hum began beneath her feet, soft at first, then louder, matching the rhythm of a heartbeat. Dust lifted from the ground as if something was moving underneath. Her flashlight flickered again, and through the beam she saw it. The floor shifting, bulging upward as if something beneath the church was trying to surface. And then, the bells began to ring once more. The floorboards trembled beneath Lena's feet, each vibration syncing with the tolling of the bells. She stumbled back, her flashlight falling and spinning across the dusty ground, casting wild beams of light that danced over the church walls. The carvings around the altar seemed to shimmer now, as if responding to the sound. Lena's breath quickened. The symbols weren't just random markings, they were meant to hold something in place. As she crouched to pick up her flashlight, a sudden gust of cold air rushed through the church, slamming the door shut behind her. The noise echoed like thunder. She turned sharply, but no one was there. Only the faint sound of footsteps, slow, deliberate, circling her from a distance. Her voice cracked as she called out, "Who's there?" The footsteps stopped. Then, from somewhere near the altar, a whisper drifted through the air. It was a man's voice, low and broken. "You shouldn't have come." Lena froze. She aimed the light toward the altar, and for a moment, she saw what looked like a shadow kneeling there. A faint outline of a man, head bowed, hands clasped as if in prayer. When she blinked, it was gone. The bells suddenly stopped, leaving a ringing silence so deep it made her ears ache. In that stillness, she noticed something she hadn't before. A trapdoor beneath the altar, half hidden under a torn rug. Heart pounding, she knelt beside it. The metal handle was cold to the touch. She hesitated, but curiosity overpowered fear. As she lifted it, the hinges groaned, and a thick, damp smell rose from below. Earth, stone, and something older, almost metallic. She pointed her flashlight into the darkness and saw stairs spiraling downward into what looked like a hidden crypt. Lena took a step down, then another, the air growing colder with every move. The walls were lined with old carvings and names, people from the missing records. At the end of the stairs, a door stood slightly open, a faint golden light leaking from within. She pushed it slowly, and inside she saw rows of bells hanging from the ceiling, smaller replicas of the church's main bell, each engraved with a name. Then she saw it, one bell still swinging, though no hand touched it. On its side was carved a fresh name. It was hers. The sound began again, deeper this time, shaking the ground as the bells above the church joined in. The air pulsed with an unseen rhythm, and somewhere in the shadows, a familiar whisper returned, closer than before.